Hello, this is Mr. Croft here, delivering a presentation to all parents on relationships and sex education and health education, which we refer to in the short form as RHSE. This is the new guidance and expectations that came into force from September 2020. This is an opportunity for us to inform you as parents and carers in how we deliver this program, specifically using our new Jigsaw curriculum, which runs from age 3 to age 11. So first of all, welcome and thank you very much for taking the time to watch this presentation and listen to its contents. Now, the aim of this is to inform you of the school's legal obligations on relationships and sex education and health education, as I said, from 2020, what we mean by sex education, your rights as a parent or carer, how, what, when we intend to teach your children. Now, if we were all here together at school, I would challenge you to think about where and when did you learn about relationships, puberty, and human reproduction? I would imagine you probably would all come up with lots of different examples to answer this question. There might not be the same level of uniformity between your answers, and actually information that you were provided may have been suitable, age appropriate. However, it may have been sketchy, lacking in detail, leaving you a little bit confused with unanswered questions. Think about, was this the best way? Think about who told you. Was there anything that you didn't understand? Was there anything that you were frightened about? But more significantly, has the world changed since then? If we're trying to keep children safe, there are additional things that we need to consider. The internet, television, social media, other media, friends, family, and school. There's many things also that's not on this list. For example, look at the logos. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Tinder. Your children have access to a world beyond your house. Now, without you realizing, you may be in a situation where you've invited into your homes additional considerations and sources that your children have accessed without even realizing. If I take for a second here the music and lyrics from this song, heard he in love with some other chick? Yeah, that hurt me, I'll admit. Forget that boy, I'm over it. I hope she's getting better sex. Hope she ain't faking it as I did. Babe, took 4 years too long to call it quits. Forget that boy, I'm over it. There are some graphic representations in here, and if I told you that that was Shout Out to My Ex by Little Mix, bearing in mind the age of your child, many children from 3 years and above are being influenced by listening to lyrics like that. It really is a challenge for us as parents and as teachers in keeping your children safe and also preparing them with the necessary information that they need to understand at a developmentally appropriate level themes that we're discussing today. Now, Little Mix's demographic is predominantly girls from age 8 upwards, and yet really, reading these lyrics, is there content in here that you would want to discuss with your 8-year-old? And quite frankly, these lyrics pale in insignificance compared to artists like Drake or those of the drill music genre, which is popular at present. Can we protect our children from all the things we don't want them to see and hear? Well, no, because your children access many forms of information in the playground, at school, after school, clubs, other grown-ups within your lives, extended family members, cousins, older siblings. So it can be extremely difficult to prevent them from hearing about some of this stuff, even if we don't let them view or hear it firsthand. Without trying to scare among you all, because we really want to make this an empowering process, we just need to spend a little bit of time talking about social media, chat rooms, and forums, really to make it very clear to you the gravity of children accessing the internet in a wider format and who they may or may not be interacting with whilst they're on the internet. This is why looking at these two slides here, it's so important for your child to have age appropriate, developmentally appropriate RSHE information. Now, if we think for a second some real stories, these children attended school, they are case studies, and they are their voice, their opinions. Let's start with the first one. Two 10-year-old girls being groomed online. They say the men were quite nice and felt that it was perfectly acceptable to text pictures of themselves in their underwear and wearing makeup. They said they'd like feeling grown up and having the attention. A 7-year-old boy, girl, accessing pornography through clickbait. A year 6 pupil accessing hardcore porn. Sex ed was only taught in year 6, but his parents withdrew him, so he missed the lessons. Now let's drill down to our starting point. We're here to educate children and young people to live in the real world with all of its contradictions. When it comes to relationships, puberty, and human reproduction, children's heads are probably not empty, but they may be full of myths and half-truths. We mustn't let our adult knowledge of relationships, etc., prevent us from seeing things from a child's perspective. Ignorance does not preserve innocence, but it may leave children vulnerable. If RSE is so important, which approaches are the best? Which teaching approaches to RSE do these pictures represent? If I was considering the first picture, this looks a little bit like trying to keep someone in the dark. It's not very sensible given the world we live in and what kids experience and hear about on a daily basis. However, the second picture, I think, is also as damaging. Information overload, telling them everything and just causing more confusion. The final picture is a representation of scare tactics. It might work for some young people, but lots of research proves that it encourages others to take more risks. Is there a better way? Well, drip feeding appropriate information, hence our new Jigsaw program, the spiral and progressive approach it takes. Fundamentally, accurate information at the right age and stage of development, coming from school and home, is certainly a better way. Now, the law has changed, that it is now compulsory in schools for the teaching of RSE and health education. But what must we teach? Well, in 2017, the government passed an amendment to the Children and Social Work Bill to make RSE and health education statutory from September 2020. Supported by over 100 organisations, including Public Health England, teaching unions, NCB, and many more. It was ratified by the House of Lords on the 24th of April 2019. So legally, we need to teach specific content to your children. Now, our new Jigsaw program meets all the expectations of the Department for Education's guidance, as long as it is delivered full and well. So what have schools got to teach? Well, at primary school, we teach relationships education. We teach health education. But sex education is at each school's discretion, although recommended by the Department for Education. At secondary level, it's compulsory that relationship education is taught. Sex education is compulsory, as is health education. The guidance does not apply to sixth form colleges, 16 to 19 academies, or FE colleges. What are the expectations for primary relationships educations? Well, we focus on families and people who care for your child. We focus on caring relationships. We focus on respectful relationships. We focus on online relationships. And more importantly, we focus on your child understanding the risks and keeping themselves safe. What does the government in England say the aim of relationship education is? Well, they say Today's children and young people are growing up in an increasingly complex world and living their lives seamlessly on and offline. Children and young people need to know how to be safe and healthy and how to manage their academic, personal, and social lives in a positive way. That came from the Department for Education Guidance on Relationships Education, Sex Education, and Health Education 2019. So, what should children know about relationships and why? Well, first of all, it's very important that as we explore these themes with your children, we're learning about families and friendship, kindness, acceptance of others who are different from ourselves, and how we treat and look after ourselves. Really, it's fundamentally focused on the importance of community. One, what is a positive, healthy, caring, safe relationship? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Two, how to speak up and get help when relationships does not feel healthy, positive, or safe. And three, how to build and maintain positive relationships. All of this includes online and offline references. As we know, children have complex relationships both in the real term and also in the digital forum. LGBT and equality. Schools are required to comply with relevant requirements of the Equality Act 2010. Further guidance is available for schools in the Equality Act 2010 and schools advice. Schools should pay particular attention to the public sector equality duty, PSED. Schools should be alive to issues such as everyday sexism, misogyny, homophobia, and gender stereotypes, and take a positive action to building a culture where these are not tolerated and any occurrences are identified and tackled. This is the core of what we do in a representation of diversity within our educational setting. We teach your children that society is made up of all different types of people, including members from the LGBT community, as well as wider references to people of other religions, cultures, communities across the world. These themes are raised at an age-appropriate, developmentally appropriate time. We have information, leaflets and parents, which we will be distributing regarding the representation of the LGBT community within our Jigsaw program as a representation of wider relationships and makeup of community and society. So what are the expectations for primary health education? Well, again, our focus is towards mental well-being, internet safety and harms, physical health and fitness, eating healthily, drugs, alcohol and tobacco, health and prevention, basic first aid, and changing adolescence body, puberty. What should children know about puberty? Well, first of all, children should know and understand the correct names for the parts of the body, including genitalia. Two, how their bodies will change during puberty. Three, how to manage these changes, the practicalities that come with that. Four, why these changes need to happen. And five, how and where to ask for help if needed. I stress again, the introduction of language, themes, and content is tiered on the system throughout the whole of education, and again is introduced to children at developmentally appropriate times. Sex education is discretionary at primary, but what exactly does the guidance say? The department continues to recommend that all primary schools should have a sex education program tailored to the age and physical and emotional maturity of pupils, drawing on knowledge of the human life cycle set out in the National Curriculum Science, how a baby is conceived and born. But what is sex education? Well, in Jigsaw, sex education is about human reproduction, not about sexual activity. I feel it's extremely important to stress that at this point. We are not Key Stage 3, we are not high school, we do not delve into the world of sexual activity. We explore human reproduction. As part of our PSHE and RSHE policy, We have defined sex education for all parents and all teachers to understand clearly. Jigsaw, the program we follow, defines sex education as human reproduction, contraception, and birth. Human reproduction is taught in a biological way so that children know accurate facts before they go to secondary school, whilst emphasizing the need for babies to be born into loving families. Let's call it understanding human reproduction rather than sex education. Is there any sex education in Key Stage 1 science? National Curriculum Science, Key Stage 1, they need to identify, name, and draw and label the basic parts of the human body and say which part of the body is associated with each sense. Notice that animals, including humans, have offspring which grow into adults. Is there any sex education in Key Stage 2 science? Or National Curriculum Key Stage 2 science, children have to describe the differences in the life cycles of a mammal, an amphibian, an insect, and a bird. Describe the life processes of reproduction in some plants and animals. Describe the changes as humans develop to old age, and learn about the changes experienced in puberty. Human reproduction, sometimes known as sex education. What should children know about human reproduction? Well, firstly, the biological facts about reproductive systems in males and females. 2, the correct names of internal and external parts of the body, including genitalia. 3, how a baby is conceived, developed through pregnancy, and is born. Can parents withdraw their children from RSE? Well, parents have the right to request that their child be withdrawn from some or all of sex education delivered as part of statutory RSE, not from relationship or health education. So this session is to inform you of what we do and how we define sex education. It's what we intend to teach in RSHE, and why? So that you can make your decision. So what, where, when, and how do we do this? Well, we've chosen to use Jigsaw, a mindful approach to PSHE and its teaching program for PSHE. It's a whole school program for PSHE, and the statutory RSHE sits within bigger context. This includes all the statutory requirements for relationships and health education, and includes the non-statutory aspects of sex education. Where do babies come from? This is covered to some extent in science, but Jigsaw ensures all children are given this human reproductive information at an age and stage in an appropriate way. What is Jigsaw? A whole school PSHE program comprising a comprehensive and completely original scheme of work for ages 3 to 16, PSHE, personal, social, and health education, including statutory relationship and health education, a detailed weekly lesson plan for all year groups, including all teaching resources, the Jigsaw approach underpinned by mindfulness, and of course, assemblies, Jigsaw friends, Jigsaw chimes, original music and songs, and dare we forget, Jigsaw Jerry Cat. Particularly in EYFS and Key Stage 1, having soft toys, characters to interact with makes PSHE, and in Foundation, PSED, education, interactive, fun, and accessible for all. Within our school, we create a safe learning environment. That's Jerry the cat, there, sat at the desk. We have a Jigsaw charter that is defined by reasonable aspirations of respect. We take turns to speak. We use kind and positive words. We listen to each other. We have the right not to make a comment, to pass to another child, to only take part in specific areas of the lesson that we feel comfortable and empowered to do so. We only use names when giving compliments or when being positive, and we respect each other's privacy. Confidentiality is a big part of our PSHE curriculum and ethos. The Jigsaw friends, here they are. We have Jigsaw circle talking objects. You can see the characters all over here. In the top picture, they're holding their chime bars, which resonate in our calm mindfulness moments as we prepare ourselves to take part in the lesson. They allow distancing techniques for potentially sensitive issues. Sometimes it's far easier if a child makes comments, asks questions, explore themes through a character than as themselves. It also helps the teacher to use the character to personify a specific aspect of learning, exploration, rather than having to use the children's experiences and examples. As I said, this is a whole school approach from 3 to 16, and it's broken down, excuse me, it's broken down into several units. In autumn 1, we have Being Me in My World. That graduates in autumn 2 to Celebrating Differences. In the spring term, we have Dreams and Goals and Healthy Me. And in the summer term, we have Relationships and Changing Me. Throughout each of these pieces of the puzzle, we explore relationships, mindfulness, values, mental health, self-esteem, social skills, and safeguarding, certainly including internet safety. These are the golden threads that weave through all of our practice. Relationships, puberty, and reproduction in Jigsaw from ages 3 to 11. Or relationships, we talk about families, friendships, love and loss, memories, grief cycles, safeguarding and keeping safe, attraction, assertiveness, conflict, own strengths and self-esteem, cyber safety and social networking, roles and responsibilities in families, stereotyping, and communities. In the Changing Me piece of the puzzle, life cycles, human reproduction, 3 lessons, changing body, puberty, growing from young to old, becoming a teenager, assertiveness, safe respect, safeguarding, family stereotypes, self and body images, attraction, changing, accepting change, looking ahead, moving class and schools. All of this that I've discussed falls within the statutory health education guidance. Changing adolescent's body is compulsory. As you can see there, it's broken down into the year groups from the foundation stage through to year 3, and then beyond to year 6. Please be mindful as you look at those slides to the specifics highlighted and how these are introduced into Key Stage 2 at a developmentally appropriate level. Within Foundation in Key Stage 1, the focus of study relates specifically on empowering people, empowering your child, and the specifics towards them. Please be reassured that it is dedicated for the latter end of lower Key Stage 2 into upper Key Stage 2, some of the specifics that maybe you'd be concerned about or interested in knowing a little bit more about. Contraception is introduced in year 4 in the context of why our bodies change during puberty. Note that one lesson in year 4 is called Puberty for Girls. This doesn't exclude the boys, it covers them too, but the main focus is on menstruation. Conception and puberty is built upon in year 5, and then puberty, conception and childbirth is covered in more detail, but still age appropriately. In year 6, with a chance for single gender group lessons, up until this point, lessons have been mixed genders. When moving your child to secondary school, sex education is compulsory, so there's an expectation that children will be moving into year 7 with some knowledge built upon the program that we're discussing today. Here are some of the examples from Jigsaw for the younger children. This is what it looks like. The focus is towards young, old, developmental cycles, growing up. Key Stage 2 resources. This is a representation of the materials used for the changes for girls, females in puberty. Again, resources for Key Stage 2 for the changes experienced in boys for puberty. Example of one of the Key Stage 2 resources for the conversations, lessons, teachings for the inside genitalia. Example of one of the Key Stage 2 resources for, again, the internal organs and specifics for the female reproductive system. Example of a Key Stage 2 resource for contraception and childbirth. The animated diagrams can be used as an optional teaching resource. Jigsaw emphasizes positive relationships with self at the starting point of a positive relationship with others. As you can see, relationships, families, friendships, love and loss, memories, life cycles, safeguarding and keeping safe, attractiveness, assertiveness, conflict, own strengths and self-esteem, cyber safety and social networking, roles and responsibilities in families, stereotyping and communities. Here's an example of a relationship resource for Key Stage 1. Now, how Jigsaw teaches about different families in Year 1. It's an emphasis on we have lots of families and they all have different sorts of families. We use cartoons as a distancing tool. This little slide with the image on it is used to show lots of different families on the planet Zarg, including those with adopted or fostered children, single parents, same-gendered parents, etc. This is preceded by a matching game where children identify different animal families. After, the PowerPoint slide shows the children draw and label their own family. Some gender families are simply explained as those with 2 mums or 2 dads. How Jigsaw teaches about different families in Year 1. We also use images to ensure a range of images aiming that every child can resonate with at least one of the images, so feel included. It's about empowering your children, making them part of the lesson, seeing themselves reflected in the teachings that they experience. The teacher uses these pictures to show a range of families. Children discuss in groups and come up with a definition. A family is. The lesson notes also helps to challenge stereotypical families and encourage children to think about other types of families that are not represented. For example, military families, adoptive families, same-gender families. They're not taught in isolation, just as another type of family. How Jigsaw teaches about inappropriate contact in Year 2. Well, lesson starts with a Connect Us tracing game where pupils trace letters on each other's hands with their fingers. It moves on to paired work, how touching is used as a form of communication, good and bad ways. Children are shown the PowerPoint to discuss how kind and bad touches make us feel. Teacher also asks for strategies if someone is experiencing a touch that they do not like or does not make them feel comfortable. Individual work, children draw around their hands and write on their hand shapes what touches they like, what they don't like. Teacher notes stress to follow safeguarding procedures if any disclosures are made. Children discuss what jealousy feels like and possible reasons. The scenario card allows children to practice conflict resolution strategies, such as the solve it together technique. Let's move on to the next slide. There's the solve it together slide. Relationship skills are built through jigsaws. For example, this conflict resolution. How does this link with the new Ofsted framework? Well, schools will be inspected, us included, using the key judgments and provisions of relationship and health education, which will feed into the process in particular regards to personal development, but also in regard to safeguarding, which is a judgment that runs across the whole inspection framework. They'll be looking for 4 key judgments. First of all, the quality of education. Second, behaviour and attitude. 3, personal development. Fundamentally, the discussion of this PowerPoint today. And 4, leadership and management. Now, at this point, I would offer an opportunity for you to ask any questions, raise any concerns, make any comments. There will be a forum for this. Details will be listed as part of the publishing of this and inviting parents to access it. We want your feedback, we want your comments. You are part of this process, and we are here to meet the needs of the community, to relay the fears of any parent or carer, whatever they may be, to support you in understanding better our legal, statutory roles and responsibility towards your child in ensuring that they grow up understanding how to be safe, how to form safe, respectful relationships, how to remain healthy. So thank you very much indeed for taking the time today. It's a difficult subject to talk about, but it's a very important one. As always, Mrs. Lightwing is here. Your class teachers are here to support you with regard to anything. Please don't be quiet. Please don't be silent. Bring all your thoughts and concerns to us, as that's the best way to support you better. Many thanks.